got a lot of work to do in marine. Quoting a max range of 200 miles at 3 knots for a fast bow rider isn't really useful to anyone because they're not going to do 3 knots in their fast bow ride. They've got people's expectation just in their head of what they think they need versus what they really need. You've then actually got the range of the boats, and then you've got the accuracy of prediction. And it's not until all three of those things that I think you're going to get the mass market adoption. We have got to get the initial upfront costs of these systems down. It's a volume topic. It's just a volume topic.
Hey, it's a Green Boater, and today I am so thrilled as part of the Marine EV Leadership Series to have one of the leading companies in this space from the UK, RAD Propulsion. And with me is the CEO, Dan Hook. Dan, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Green Boater.
Hi Bruno, thanks for having me on, and thanks for this chance to sort of share our story and talk to some of your readership.
What was it that inspired you to just get on with this thing and start RAD Propulsion?
No, thanks for that question, chance to sort of share our story. So I grew up in the UK, in Kent. I went to a technical school in Kent, and then I went to study naval architecture at university. So I trained as a naval architect between 98 and 2002. At University of Southampton. Really enjoyed that course, sort of specialised in small craft, propulsion systems, got to study under some fantastic professors there. So I studied naval architecture and then went and worked in the sort of naval architecture field for a few years and really enjoyed it. It's fantastic sort of challenges, spent a lot of time tank testing and doing propulsion calcs for different boat builders. But sort of realised I probably wasn't going to become a famous naval architect. Sort of decided I actually really enjoyed marine technology, the sort of design and engineering of products, not just whole boats. So we launched a company called ASV, which was an unmanned boat company, and we built unmanned boats. And an awful lot of those systems in the end were sort of hybrid electric. So some of them were diesel generators, charging battery banks, running electric motors. Some were pure battery electric. Others were just petrol. So we got this huge sort of exposure to all different types of propulsion system. Back to the story, we sold the unmanned boat company in 2018. We realized that so many of the customers were coming to us to talk about cutting their CO2 emissions in their commercial operation, looking to reduce the sort of health and safety exposure. They wanted more digitization. They wanted to have data flowing into digital twins. Lots of them were getting into automation and autonomy. There was a real change happening in the maritime industry. And at the same time, in the leisure industry, recreational world, I tell this story. There's a large marina near to where we live, Chichester Harbour. When you pull into Chichester Harbour at the weekend, the car park was becoming full of Teslas, Nissan Leafs, Porsche Taycans, yet the marina was still full of huge petrol outboard and diesel inboard boats. There's this mismatch going on. You've got these early adopters in the EV car world, but they didn't really have an outlet in the boat world. As a company director myself at the time, I was signing up to these sort of ESG commitments for our company to cut our energy emissions, cut our CO2. And then I liked going boating, and at the weekends, there's a slight mismatch if you're putting 500 litres of petrol through a boat. So we just saw like there's this huge opportunity here to apply some of our background from naval architecture and automation and robotics into sort of green boating and see what we can build, see what we can do. We think we'd have a good market in both the commercial and the recreational space. All around about the same time, I had a young family. So I had twin boys who are now 5 and a little boy who's 3. Bringing a family into the world, it does make you think about what's going on with global warming and our emissions. And you go away and look at CO2 curves for the planet and the forecasts, and they're really quite daunting. And you start to think about it for your family. And myself and co-founder Rich, who's another naval architect and a marine robotics guy, formed RAD.
When you started the company, now roll the clock forward, so that was 2018. Is the company what you envisioned it?
I think to start a company, you've certainly got to be an optimist. So when you write your business plan and you look at raising your first investment and you're optimists. So when you're writing all of that, you've certainly got a vision, which is, a fairly smooth route through development, a smooth route in building a sales team. And then COVID comes along.
Well, that wasn't in your forecast?
We didn't put that in our risk assessment. I'd love to see if any startups starting businesses in early sort of 2018 had in their risk forecast global pandemic. But it made it very difficult launching a new company during that time. And then, the sort of journey of product development and testing and building a supply chain is hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So no, I think probably we're kind of maybe a couple of years behind, a year and a half behind where I'd loved us to have been. But I think in taking that extra bit of time, we've probably done things better. The team, when they were working remotely at home during COVID, they had a lot of quiet headspace. So a lot of our initial architecture and thinking was done in a calm way. But possibly if we'd have all been busy in the workshop and the office, we might have made some mistakes.
Besides COVID, were there any sort of learning curve things that when you morphed from going from your deep sea company to starting a brand new company in an emerging market?
It's easy to find people that say sort of, yes, that's great. So you make your plans of what you're going to do and you show it to your family and they say, oh, that's great. That's really good, really clever, well done. Then you show it to friends and they say, oh, that's great too. And then you show it to some sort of boat companies that you pretty convinced are going to be sort of early supporters and they say, oh, that's great, you should definitely do that. So it's quite easy to find sort of yeses. It's actually quite hard to find the people that have got the sort of the hesitations and to really understand why. It takes quite a lot of time to spend with them to understand why they're a little nervous, why they're not so sure. That's probably been the challenge, is sort of getting just enough input from enough types of people to sort of form your real plan. So yeah, that was hard. And then the other thing has been in fundraising. But when you talk to, you make a long list of funds that you've managed to find online or via recommendations and friends. And when you speak to them and say you're in the marine space, almost half of them straight away just say, look, we think it could be great in the marine space, but we don't do marine. We don't understand it. We don't have a partner that works in marine. So you're left with half. And of that half, when you say, well, we're going to be building some hardware as well as some software, you lose another half or 2/3. And so you're then left with quite a small subset of the private equity, VC money that's out there that would get involved.
What about the market? What about the people that are lining up with those Teslas? Are they going to make the switch? Are they going to go into a partnership with a brand new company, into a brand new market with all kinds of people, like you said, who are saying no because they like their gas guzzler, they like the little 5 horsepower Tahatsu or whatever? How have you seen the market acceptance and establish itself since you started in 2018 and where it is today?
Yeah, great question. And I guess what's exciting for us and hopefully lots of your followers is just the pace of change. So in 2018, there was obviously the sort of established electric brands that we'd all know, Torpedoes and some others. And there was lots of sort of focus on the lower power, smaller systems to go on. And then there was the large systems from big companies like Danfoss and ABB and Siemens and Wärtsilä, for big ships. There really wasn't very much going on in the middle in 2018. You didn't really see anything about electric pilot boats, or you didn't really see anything about electric sort of motor cruisers in anything 20, 30, 40, 50 feet. There wasn't really anything going on in that space. Really quickly, between 2018 and 2024, you've seen literally electric vessel projects and products at all sizes, from the smallest tender to the biggest ship and everything in between. And that's happened in less than 6 years. So that's been a really good trend that we've seen happen. We're quite sort of data focused. So there's lots of opinions out there, I think, about which markets it suits and the rate of adoption and the size of market. I think at RAD, we've been trying to be a bit more analytical and actually gather data and facts and look at where it suits and where it suits now and where it might suit in 5 years and where it might not suit for a long, long, long time, if ever. So we've worked really hard on trying to get real data from users on how far they actually go in their recreational trips or their work trips, how often, how fast, how that changes with the seasons. We've been trying to sort of be a little bit more data focused rather than opinion focused on where we focus our efforts. We're a small team. There's only sort of 20 of us in the company. We can't afford to make sort of too many mistakes pushing the wrong application in the wrong country at the wrong time.
What is it that sets RAD apart? What makes you different than other companies? What could be the hope that you can inspire in potential customers about partnering with you?
Good question. So you see the whole spectrum of things now when you go to the shows. And I think when you sort of look across the cost point, the cost curve, and then the sort of quality curve and the feature rich curve, there are some companies I'd say doing it really well and are in it for the long term. And I think there's also some companies out probably looking for kind of a quick return or a quick flip. And then you've obviously got the big established players, the fossil fuel engine market, sort of looking at what their strategy is going to be and how they're going to do this. And they've got a big challenge. They've got to kind of change a brand really from a horsepower, petrol, diesel, big sound brand to cleaner electric brand. So yeah, a huge spectrum of things. I think with RAD, what I'm really proud of is the way we've approached it. So we want to build relationships with boat builders that last, and then relationships with boat owners that last. So we've put a lot of effort into what we call RAD Bus, which is our architecture to allow boat builders to sort of install systems easily. So yeah, we've focused on sort of making it easier for boat builders to integrate these systems. We've tried to add a level of future proofing. We've done our architecture in such a way that if people want to plug in even things like autonomy controllers, some of the commercial boats are looking at how they future proof for automation. We've done interfaces to autonomy controllers. We've done interfaces for sort of smart autopilots. I think there's going to be a trend in the industry towards more, in the car world, you call it ADAS, advanced driver assistance systems. And I think in the marine world, we're going to start to see more assistance tools, let's say, whether they're chart-related anti-grounding, whether they're AIS, camera, radar, anti-collision, whether it's just augmented support to what you're trying to do, docking, in a nasty current. So I think there's going to be lots of that sort of tech coming in, and we've tried to build a system that's future-proofed for that. I think a lot of the electric systems on the market aren't much more actually than a battery, a motor controller, a motor, and a potentiometer for speed control. That isn't really going to get them integrated in the future. So yeah, it's building for the long term, the future for our company. Who knows whether one day it gets taken into some other big company or we become the big company ourselves. But we want to be in it for the long haul and look after the boat builders.
It's interesting that you as a leader, you have to choose which battle you're going to fight and where you're going to go. Where is RAD focused in on? Where do you see your sweet spot?
I think first thing to say is we are almost evenly split in our sort of opportunities in our CRM tool and our sales across commercial and recreational. That's been our strategy. I think launching a new company, that's hard work to keep both going, but there's an awful lot of lessons that you learn in each that you can apply to the other. And historically, both markets have had their ups and downs. I think sort of post-COVID, we were a bit nervous around the recreational space, but we could see commercial was going to be strong. And so we've got a foot in each camp. I think probably the strategy that's important to point out for RAD was at what power we'd launch at. We spent a lot of time looking at that and thinking about that and talking to boat builders. And one of the decision factors that drove it was looking at charging infrastructure. We concluded that our RAD 40, which was our first sort of to market drive product, is 40 kilowatts, about 55 horsepower. The type of battery, if you're going all electric, battery electric, that would power that is the sort that actually you can charge overnight. So you don't need a fast charger. You can just charge off the marina socket. So we thought was really important because we thought we didn't want to be held up by infrastructure. And then we talked to quite a lot of boat builders and we posed the question to them, if you could only ever have 3 sizes of outboard, for the rest of your boat building days, they said a 9.9 horse, a 50 horse, and 150 horse. And I can kind of do anything with that. So our strategy, we've developed the RAD 40 and launched that. We're now working on a RAD 120, which is over 150 horse. And then we're working on a smaller product that we've not really said much about at all yet, which is back in that sort of 10 horsepower range.
There is a fairly significant cost difference between traditional propulsion and electric.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges, and I think we all, look forward to the point, and certainly our engineering and procurement team here has it as a sort of focus goal to get towards that sort of price parity point. I think we do have the challenge to address. In the commercial sector, you often look at sort of through life costs. So they're aware of their CapEx balance and will say, well, let's look at it over 5 years, 3 years, 8 years. Where's the return? And we can look at a sort of a bull and bear approach for electricity prices. And you can sort of model and actually quite quickly, the commercial sector says, oh yeah, this is actually, I'm pretty confident this is a net saving over 3 years, 5 years, depends how many hours I do. So I'm very positive for the commercial sector of how we approach that. When you factor in lower maintenance, more uptime, electricity costs, no one has a crystal ball, but you can kind of look at a model that's pretty well trusted. The commercial world is getting there, but it's different in the leisure world. I think people don't tend to think like that. Some do. Certainly the accountants out there buying boats might have that mindset, but I think a lot of people are very aware of the cash coming out of their bank this year, or how big a loan they're going to have to get this next boat, and what the payments are on that. So they are thinking much more of that, not so much the sort of through life cost. That's the challenge we face. We've got to get, we have got to get the initial upfront costs of these systems down. That comes through volume, but where I'm super optimistic is that we're going to get there. Because if you look at the build time for these systems, they're quite significantly less than the petrol systems going out. If you look at the bill of materials, the part count is a lot less. It's a volume topic. It's just a volume topic. And I think even the higher volume electric motor manufacturers, electric drive manufacturers in marine are still low volume compared to the petrol and diesel. To get the sort of the mass market, the wide adoption, we've got to get some prices down by half.
So let's just talk quickly about range anxiety and then just the regulatory issues surrounding marine.
The range anxiety topics, really valid one. It's one I feel have experienced. I think it's one nearly all of our team have, both with electric cars we own and the boats. And I think it comes down to there's a few elements at play. One is the actual estimation of what you really do. We've been asking a lot of people, commercial and recreational, how many miles do you do at the weekend? Or how many miles do you do a day in your job in the boat? What's your average speed? There's exceptions. Some people are bang on. They really know their passage plans. They know what they do. They've got it bang on. Most are not. Most are way off. I'd say a lot I ask would be double. They'll say they do 30, 40 miles, and you look at on a chart with them what they've just done, and they did half that. They did 15 at the weekend. A lot of the commercial ones will say, well, we're probably average speed is 20 knots and we're up at 30 sometimes doing this, and nearly always at 7 or 8. And when you actually look at the average over the day, it's 12 knots. So people in their mind, I think, naturally overestimate the range they need, the energy they need, even the power they need. So there's that part of the challenge. Then there is the actual range that these vessels are capable of themselves. So energy density of batteries, efficiency of drives, efficiency of motor controllers. And then there's the accuracy of the prediction tools. So obviously the challenges with range prediction in boating is significant. You've got the cleanliness of the hull, the center of gravity on that day for that boat. You've got the wind, you've got the waves, you've got the tide, you've got the driving style, you've got the temperature, you've got the salinity of the water you're in. There's a dozen other variables. To get accurate range prediction on the day, on the moment, on the minute for your boat is quite a task. It's a lot easier in cars. Some of the big data work they've done in cars, looking at tires, road types, weather, have really built some very good models now, and the cars have gotten more and more accurate. We've got a lot of work to do in marine. I think it is a big data problem. It's a big data challenge. If you say you've got 4 friends in the boat and it's telling you've got 50 miles range left, if you drop one of them off at the pontoon, and let's just say they were a bigger adult and you're in a small boat, it's possible your range has actually quite significantly changed. How quickly is your drive system going to work out that your boat is now in a different operating profile?
Yeah. Electric, you monitor all this stuff, right? As in gas.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I have to go in my engine room and look at a site class to actually see how much
Exactly.
fuel is still in there. And often that site class is so murky, I can't
Yeah.
tell. So
Yeah.
in electric, not only can you do it, but you can do it remotely.
Exactly. And I mean, I used to do a lot of propeller and hull testing in sort of early naval architecture days. And you're bouncing around in the boat with your pen and paper, trying to write down an average speed, an average RPM, and an average fuel flow. And, you get pretty lumpy, bumpy curves. With electric, you just get beautiful prop, power, speed, torque curves. So it's just to summarize it. I mean, they've got people's expectation just in their head of what they think they need versus what they really need. You've then actually got the range of the boats, which we all agree we've got to improve. And then you've got the accuracy of prediction. And it's not until all 3 of those things, I think you're going to get the mass market adoption. Yeah. And it also doesn't help, I think, as an industry, seen lots of chats, various WhatsApp groups we've got of people in the industry. We'll swap notes. I think we've got to get better at making that easier for customers to understand. Yeah. Quoting a max range of 200 miles at 3 knots for a fast bow rider isn't really useful to anyone, because they're not going to do 3 knots in their fast bow rider. Absolutely. And the opposite's true. Just quoting max speed for a boat that's on the river where there's a 6 knot speed limit isn't particularly useful. We've got to get better as an industry of that.
So just quickly on regulatory, I know it's kind of boring, but it is important.
Very, yeah. And as a small company, one of the sort of challenges we've got is working with so many different countries and organizations. So already we are exporting drives to the US, Finland, Norway, France, Africa, and the UK and Ireland. So already we're having to deal with a lot of sort of flag states, local Coast Guard offices, classification societies, and more. I think we've taken the approach of work for the highest requirements. And if you can meet those, you're generally in a good position with the others. So we're trying to work to the sort of high workboat standard, because if we can achieve that, I think the recreational requirements are going to be much easier. We employed an engineer, he's an aerospace engineer, Sam Pickering. He joined us to lead our certification and all sort of testing compliance role. And we said to him, look, go and collate a list of all of the standards we're going to need to pass for our product. And he went searching and he spoke to an awful lot of people in the industry and got quite a confused response. And he spent a long time, he's a clever guy, Sam. He spent a long time kind of collating all of the common denominators from those standards. And we worked out a test plan, spent a lot of money, a lot of our raised money on testing, shock and vibration, immersion underwater, obviously all the different voltage, insulation tests, isolation tests, salt spray, salt mist, the list, EMC, electromagnetic interference, the list goes on. It's been really hard work, but we've done it. It can be done. And I think, again, it's an learning industry phase. There's a lot of new companies in the space that haven't been building engines before for 50 or 100 years, are learning. There's boat companies that are brand new. They've set up as electric boat companies, having to learn how to build boats and electric boats. So it's a communication thing. I think working closely with the Coast Guard, RYA here in the UK, the sort of newly formed IEMA group, keep at it, work hard, good engineers, good engineering.
Well, you started this whole conversation about saying, why did you start? And you talked about, the whole disparity between electric and fossil fuel. And we all know what's going on in that. What are you doing as a leader of the company to not only build a product that addresses the issue, but what about your production methods, your supply chain, you as a company to be a company that could be branded as a sustainable company?
It's super important to us for quite a few reasons. And there's actually quite a selfish reason in it when you're trying to build a new company. One is to attract good talent, to attract good people now to a company, particularly younger engineers. They want to work at companies that take that topic seriously. So you kind of have to be it if you want to get good people to grow your company. Let alone it being the right thing to do for all of us in this age. So no, we've got some sort of great initiatives. We had a chance as a blank sheet new company to start looking at things from the outset, how we're going to do things differently. So packaging, when we used to buy engines and outboards at our last company, we'd have these horrific crates that were a mix of wood, nails, screws, wrapped, that horrible kind of blue zip grip stuff around it that cuts your hands. And nearly all of that went into landfill because it was so hard to sort what was what. So all that went into landfill. So we've done packaging from scratch. We've worked with kind of a structural recyclable cardboard, which is really neat. The guys have done a great job designing that. So you can stack them up. They're a structural safe transport box, but it's single material, so it can be recycled. When we've been selecting parts for the drive, we've worked with a whole life cycle assessment consultant to look at material choice, supply chain, where you get it from choice. There might be a certain material that is the right choice, but if you have to bring it in from the wrong place, it's not the right choice for your company. And yeah, we're really enjoying the sort of whole lifestyle look at it. There's the obvious CO2 point of emissions balance to make of electric, and is it renewable energy? How much fuel are you offsetting? There's that side of it, which is quite quantifiable. But then what about the boats themselves? What about the batteries? What about the shipping? And I personally am really keen on what's going to happen in the retrofit market. because almost one of the worst things to do for the planet is to take this boat with its petrol and diesels and junk it to buy this brand new all electric boat. The total story for lots of boats, lots of applications, may well be to repower this boat. If it's a GRP boat, it can have 100 years of life. We're still to find out the end of that curve, I think. If it's a wooden boat and it's well maintained, a very long one. So yeah, it's the whole life cycle look. It's not just about not using petrol.
So just in wrapping up a little bit about availability, where are you focused on in terms of driving your geographic markets?
In terms of Europe adoption, you're right. It's been really fast in Finland, Sweden, Norway, some of those countries, Denmark. A little slower here in the UK, but getting there. And at the moment, we're supporting customers in that region from here in the UK. We're just in the process of shipping first drives to the US, but we are in talks with a group to be helping us on some assembly of some of the drives in the States, but more importantly, commissioning, installation, and support. So we're going to establish a RAD US, but with an existing boat partner there. Because if let's sort of take any one of the existing petrol or diesel manufacturers, and you can normally find spare parts or someone who knows their way around the engine within an hour's drive, pretty much of wherever you are. We've got to get there with electric. I don't think there'll be as many spare parts, and I don't think there'll be as many visits. There'll be a little bit more remote dial-in maybe, but we've got to offer that support. And that's one of the biggest challenges for a small company is scaling that up.
Well, and to that point, where's the best place to go for finding information and how to get a hold of the right people?
So at the moment, that'd definitely be our website, so radpropulsion.com. But also, I'm on LinkedIn. Send me a message, and I try and respond as quick as I can to anyone. So I'm down as Dan Hook ASV on LinkedIn. And then we're at a lot of different boat shows. Come and find us at one of the shows. Send us an email or message via our website.
I so appreciate the time you've taken. You've given us a great backstory to the company, to the people. Thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing more things about some of the products you're coming out with.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bruno. Thanks. And to everyone out there that's green boating, keep doing it and enjoy it. It's the best.
So we've had Dan Hook, the CEO and co-founder of RAD Propulsion. I hope that this has given you some insight as to what is currently available, what is coming, and these exciting companies that are really taking a look at holistically how to run a company, how to take a new technology and address a problem in our world, that is taking care of our oceans. Bruno Hoffman of the Green Boater, and thank you very much. We'll see you at the next episode.